Hello, this is Newsfeed, your daily dose of what people are talking about online. It's been a tumultuous couple of days for the tech world. After a chaotic few days of backdoor discussions and multiple pressure campaigns full of heart emojis, Sam Altman is back at ChatGPT maker OpenAI as CEO. Now, if you failed to follow this Silicon Valley drama reminiscent of a Succession episode, we've got you covered. Sari tells us how it all went down.
It all started on November 17 when OpenAI's board of directors fired Sam Altman, citing inconsistent communications. The company's president, Greg Brockman, was also dismissed from the board, and he quit. Senior researchers followed them out the door, and chaos took over the world's hottest tech startup. Just a day later, discussions to reinstate Altman as CEO began. Altman was open to returning, with one catch. He wanted the existing board gone. Staff started quoting Altman's post with heart emojis in an effort to pressure the board. And just when we thought the situation was about to be reversed, the board appointed Emmett Shear as interim CEO. This sudden twist made the former Twitch boss the company's third CEO in just 72 hours. Meanwhile, OpenAI's main investor, Microsoft, wanted to keep Altman and Brockman. CEO Satya Nadella hired them both, along with their colleagues. Microsoft's stock price closed at an all-time high on that day. Another shocking twist came from the person who fired Altman in the first place. Ilya Sutskever said he regrets his actions and joined virtually every other employee in the ultimatum to follow their leaders by joining Microsoft, unless the board resigns. And it seems like the pressure paid off as talks began again. And now, Altman and Brockman have returned to their posts on Wednesday, with a new board of directors.
This whole debacle took place almost on the first anniversary of ChatGPT's launch. 100 million people now use the chatbot weekly, and it's still the fastest growing consumer app. Sam Altman shared these stats at the company's first developer conference just a week before he was ousted. He had also announced customizable GPTs, a development that would let users build their own bots using OpenAI's model. This seems to be one of the main rifts between him and the former board, who wanted to be more cautious. Now the company has a new transitionary board with one holdover, Adam D'Angelo. The Verge reports this new board, along with Brett Taylor and Larry Summers, will appoint 9 new people to govern a new era for the company. This new group may also include a seat for a Microsoft rep and the wunderkind Sam Altman himself. Tech journalist and author Chris Stoker-Walker joins us now. Now, Chris, Sam Altman is back at OpenAI. Is this an end to the chaos at the company?
I think it is an end to the chaos, but it does mean that Sam Altman will have a big hill to overcome to try and gain back some trust, because we have to remember 5 days ago it was said that he was untrustworthy, he was not being consistently candid with the board, and it was important that he try and remedy that, otherwise they would have got rid of him. So this is going to be an issue. He seems to have all of the staff on his side, but I think trying to reassure investors and also the general public that this is a well-run company will be a bit more of a challenge.
And OpenAI's old board of directors, they were very vague into why it sacked Sam Altman. Do we have any more clarity into the real reason behind why he was fired?
We don't. We only have supposition based on reporting from those who are inside the company. And it's worth pointing out that actually employees themselves haven't been told. And the CEO, who was there for basically a couple of days, Emmett Shear, as the replacement for Sam Altman, he himself tried to find out reportedly and was never told actually what was the reason for this split. There is an assumption, as you say, that this was over the development of speed of AI technology within OpenAI, the fact that they were moving very, very quickly. We know Ilya Sutskever, who is one of the chief scientific people within OpenAI, was concerned around that pace of development, and he's expressed regret for his part in having the incident happen over the last 5 days.
And what that does expose, those rumors that we are seeing leak out, is that there are deep rifts between OpenAI. Now, Altman, there were rumors that Altman's firing was due to his aggressive AI development. And of course, you mentioned earlier, the OpenAI board wanted to move more cautiously in line with effective altruism.
Yeah, so effective altruism is an interesting player in this space, not actually directly represented on the OpenAI board, but this is a group that is worried about AI superintelligence enslaving humanity. It's worth pointing out for our viewers that that is still a relatively niche belief within not just the general public, but also within the AI community more generally. Around about 66% of Americans who were polled earlier this year said that they didn't imagine that AI would enslave them and kind of end the world in the next 10 years. 46% of them said it wouldn't happen in the next 50. So it is a niche belief, but it is one that has been gaining a foothold among some people within the AI community. And there was a suggestion that perhaps they were in some way behind this decision to start to slow down the development. Notably, Emmett Shear, the person that was going to replace Sam Altman before he came back, had said that he wanted to slow down the pace of development of AI to something like 10 to 20% of what it currently was. So I think that this is still an ongoing conflict, but certainly those effective altruism people, they have much less of a voice now that Sam Altman's won out.
That's right. So we have a new board of directors for OpenAI, and it seems that Microsoft, which has a 49% stake in it, played a big role in this.
Yeah, so we know that Microsoft were keen to offer a place to Sam Altman and Greg Brockman, who is his deputy, when they were fired. But it also seems like they've tried to get cooler heads to prevail here. Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, importantly gave his blessing to Altman returning overnight. And I think that's a vital element of this because ultimately they've invested more than $10 billion into the company. They want to see a return from it.
And what does this mean? Is this a signal of Microsoft's increased role and influence within OpenAI?
Yeah, very briefly, I think it is. I think that this is something that they will want to ensure a return on. Notably, the reporting seems to suggest that the board that has been installed will have some sort of Microsoft representation. I imagine that they'll be wanting that given the amount of money they've put in. But yeah, it does seem like Microsoft has control here, and that will worry some people. But also, it does mean that we have a kind of conclusion to this that ends up pretty happily for most.
All right, and what is next for OpenAI? What do you think?
I think that they'll continue to develop the way that they are. Sam Altman will be emboldened by the fact that he's won out over this whole thing. He has very, very loyal staff members, we've realized. 96% of them said that they would walk out of the company if the board hadn't resigned. So that is some pretty impressive statistic. And I think that this means what he says and the future of AI development in his eyes is what will end up happening for all of us.
Right, we'll really have to see how that plays out. Now, thanks, Chris, for those insights today. The world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, has a new CEO. Richard Tang, the former head of regional markets, takes over from founder Changpeng Zhao, better known as CZ, who pleaded guilty to money laundering. Binance will have to cough up a $4.3 billion fine to the U.S. Justice Department, while a further $50 million in fines will come from CZ's own pocket. U.S. authorities say under CZ's watch, Binance registered in the Cayman Islands and made it easy for criminals and groups like Daesh, Al-Qaeda, and Hamas to move money. And employees knowingly facilitated transactions to internationally sanctioned nations. Here's how things went awry.
A lot of Binance's success can be attributed to their willingness to bend the rules, and today that strategy has finally caught up with them. CZ will no longer have any operational involvement in Binance, but will remain as its biggest shareholder. What happens next? If anything was going to put a pause on the return of the crypto bull market, this news was probably it. The new CEO, Richard Tang, will need to do a lot to reassure everyone that the exchange itself is in good shape.
Pivoting now from tech, Israel may have agreed to a pause in fighting in Gaza, but its prisoner swap deal isn't slowing down a global boycott movement against Israel. In fact, pro-Palestine movement Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions is ramping up its pressure campaign. It's calling for a global day of action on November the 29th, which falls on the UN-organized International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. PDS is calling for peaceful disruptions, people to put pressure on their governments to stop arming Israel and cancel military deals, as well as demand officials to push the International Criminal Court to prosecute Israel for war crimes. BDS is a nonviolent protest movement that was first launched by Palestinian civil society groups in 2005. The latest conflict has thrust the campaign back into the spotlight. And the targeted boycotts have really begun to bite, impacting big businesses that support or have ties to Israel. The businesses on your screen have been in the crosshairs after their outlets in Israel offered free food to the military.
First brand, McDonald's.
McDonald's, I don't think you guys should buy it anymore.
Sally, what do you think about Domino's Pizza?
Domino's Pizza, it's so bad. You guys just make your own at home.
The first brand is Domino's Pizza.
ما تتاكلش معفشة ووحشة معجنة بس.
Mom, you know this brand?
بوما مين بيشتري منهم دولت؟ ما حدش بيشتري منهم أصلاً.
Why are we boycotting Puma? Puma is the main international sponsor of the Israel Football Association. The IFA has teams that operate in illegal Israeli settlements, and Puma holds exclusive distribution deals with companies that operate from that same occupied land. Boycotting means withdrawing all support from a brand, including not buying their products, unfollowing them on social media, and encouraging others to do the same. By boycotting the sponsor of the IFA, it strips the league of its power, which in turn works to delegitimize the occupation. Money talks. If a brand starts losing money and it's clear why, they're forced to make changes. When combined with other forms of pressure, the impact can be far-reaching. For example, in 2018, Adidas ended their sponsorship of the IFA due to global pressure. The BDS campaign has been boycotting Puma for years, and now is the time to get involved if you haven't already.
Social media has been flooded with long lists of companies which are tied in any way to Israel. But BDS wants you to understand boycotting everything with links to Israel misses the point. It's emphasizing targeted strategic boycotts because doing that can take a real bite out of a specific company's bottom line, which is why it says focus on this select few to make a bigger impact. These companies are on the BDS's official list. They either sponsor, enable, or normalize illegal settlements, contributing to Israel's decades-long oppression of the Palestinian people and, of course, the ongoing conflict. This group includes companies accused of human rights violations. BDS says SodaStream is actively complicit in Israel's policy of displacing the Palestinians and has a history of mistreatment of and discrimination against Palestinian workers, while Carrefour supports Israeli soldiers participating in Gaza's oppression. Companies in this group, like Google and Amazon, provide critical support to Israeli military and security operations, while these companies are involved in infrastructure and financial support for Israel's illegal activities like settlement expansion.
There's a reason why the BDS movement is asking people to focus specifically on these companies. They have direct ties to Israel. Therefore, boycotting these brands will make an actual tangible impact, especially if people are able to sustain their boycott. If everybody's attention is split amongst hundreds and thousands of different brands and companies, the boycott of those brands and companies will not be successful. We have to act as a unit. If majority of people can agree on which brands and companies to not give our money to, they will feel the impacts of that. And that's what matters more so than being able to boycott every single company on every single list you see out there. Don't distract from the main targets of boycotts.
The BDS movement has been huge on TikTok, where the hashtag BDS has more than 2.9 billion views. The movement takes inspiration from the South African anti-apartheid fight and the U.S. civil rights movement, both of which effectively use boycotts. And if you search the hashtag boycott Israel, there are 342 million views. And those views and shares have had a real-world impact globally. Many Starbucks outlets have been empty. In some countries like Malaysia, outlets have been forced to reduce operating hours. In Egypt, netizens report that Starbucks has slashed the price of its frappuccinos by 80% in a desperate bid to lure back clientele. Another symbol of resistance, of course, is the black and white Palestinian scarf, or Keffiyeh. It can be seen at protests across the globe from Poland, Malaysia, and Mexico, with Palestinians online encouraging people to wear it. The scarf can be worn in several ways, as outlined in this clip. It became a mark of nationalism during the Arab Revolt of the 1930s and has been worn for the same reason ever since, most famously by the late Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. In recent weeks, there have been crackdowns globally on people wearing it. In Berlin, schools have banned it. In France, fines of up to $150 have been dished out, and London protesters have been targeted by police for wearing it. And Australian Senator Lydia Thorpe wore one when speaking to the Senate to condemn Aussie support for Israel. The Keffiyeh stitching and design is also emblematic, steeped with deep meaning.
The Palestinian Keffiyeh is a symbol for resistance and strength, and the patterns that are on the Keffiyeh have deep meanings. The two bold lines that you see on the Keffiyeh represent the historic trade route that used to connect Palestine with the rest of the world, namely the Middle East and Europe. And this pattern here represents fish nets. As you all know, Palestine is on the Mediterranean Sea, and fishing is huge for the Palestinians. And finally, you have this pattern here, which represents the olive leaves. And the olive tree, again, is all about, it represents the Palestinian culture, heritage, and identity.
And that brings us to the end of our show. We've been focusing mainly on events in Gaza over the past month. Find our stories and guest interviews on YouTube. Goodbye for now.